Hello and welcome to the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. Thanks for joining us once again, along with Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Welcome again to the program.
Thank you.
She's got the button on supporting Maple Grove Days. We'll talk more about that a couple times as we go through the agenda here. From the 7th, there was a meeting ahead of time, a work session. Also, the meeting itself was about an hour and a half and a big audience for the beginning because there's new firefighters and police officers. So more to come about that. Heidi, let's talk about that work session first. Two items covered there. The first, forest preservation area. We've talked about this a few times, and there's something in the regular agenda as well. Give us an update of what was talked about and what the next steps might be.
Yeah, so this was an initiative the Arbor Committee had been working on and wanting to have some discussion with the council. Was really about the opportunity for placing conservation easements in our forest preservation areas. So conservation easements are kind of a perpetual protection mechanism that you can place legally on land that is either publicly or privately held. The city owns currently about 300 acres of forest preservation land and has for many years. If you'll recall, the city did a bond referendum back in 1995, and much of those funds were used to acquire some of that land, and some of that has been conveyed privately as well. So a lot of discussion here. We brought in some folks from Hennepin County as well as the Minnesota Land Trust to talk about just kind of how conservation easements work from a legal perspective, and what role the county might play in assisting on that. And so a lot of discussion, and I think council had an opportunity to hear all that information and discuss as well. And I think the council just raised some concerns around kind of handing over control of city-owned lands to a third party. And conservation easements, you really have to be clear on the in the beginning as to what kinds of things you would want to have happen in that land. Very hard to change the terms and conditions of a conservation easement, and they're perpetual. They're kind of forever, and so it's it takes that kind of that ownership right or that control out of the hands of the city. And I think the council has demonstrated and the city has demonstrated good stewardship of these lands. They've held many of them for over 25 years, protected them and enhanced them in terms of managing invasive species, those kinds of things. And I think we always want to remain flexible in terms of today some of them contain some kind of walking trails, chipwood walking trails in more informal areas for passive recreation. And I think we always want to be thoughtful about that and thinking about those opportunities as well. So the direction was to not move forward with that at this time, and that the council was pretty solid in their policy position on this one. And then also the opportunity to work maybe with Hennepin County on some restoration opportunities in some of those forested areas. So good to have that discussion and get that policy direction from the council.
What is the comparison to other cities in Hennepin County? Are there others that have this in place already, or is there a trend one way or the other?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mixed bag, if you will. I think there's some cities where sometimes if the land is conveyed from a private landowner, it comes with a conservation easement. And I should note, many of the lands out there do have some level of protection on them. Some have some DNR funds were used, and so then that comes with some protection. Sometimes as part of that conveyance from the private property owner, that deed restriction is placed on the use of the land. So many of those properties are already protected. And also of note, a lot of wetlands and then very steep slopes in some of those areas. So the potential for those properties to be, potentially developed in the future is very minimal. There's just not much that's left out there that either isn't already protected today or have some level of wetland or topography, condition on it that would preclude that. So,
very good.
Yep.
All right. Other item covered in the work session ahead of the meeting on the 7th was Maple Grove Days. So the button is on, the day is coming. We'll talk about the dates in just a little bit, but a little bit of discussion about the planning. A rather tough year for Maple Grove Days. What are some of the talks?
Yeah, and I think Maple Grove's probably not alone in that challenge in terms of trying to, bring these community events back. And, one of the big components of that is sponsorship opportunities with the business community. And, many of our businesses were impacted certainly during the pandemic. And then, there's just some issues of trying to host a big gathering event, and some of our healthcare providers, those kinds of things, have kind of wanted to stay away from sponsoring that kind of a thing. And so in an effort to try to make sure that Maple Grove Days is the best that it can be, given the current environment, they had come back to us and wanted to talk with us about kind of where they were at with their sponsorship, where they were at with their event planning, and ask for some additional support, financial support from the city. So after that discussion, the council did agree for that additional $10,000 to help them out. They do have a reserve fund that they carry, the Maple Grove Community Organization, but I think the concern was if they drain that, then how do they have dollars in the bank to start into 2022? Because sometimes you have to make commitments ahead of time, book vendors, pay for things, make reservations or deposits, that kind of thing. So we'll continue to work with them as they work through this event this year, kind of in uncharted times, but hopefully this is what will get them over the finish line, and we'll have a great Maple Grove Days this year.
All right, more to come on the dates as we get towards the end of the program. Now to the meeting itself from the 7th, a full meeting, about an hour and a half in length, and a neat note to start with is it was back to normal. You had everybody there. Tell us about that change.
Yeah, so we're back at the dais, chairs back in the council chambers, have everybody kind of back in their normal positions, and we've moved away from the hybrid format, so no more, some people online, some people in person, asking people, come back to the chambers for those meetings. And so felt a little strange at first, but everybody settled in quite quickly. And, I think it's so much, people can, see people and hear better and ask questions better, and everybody kind of feels like they're more part of the meeting. So I think everybody was excited to be back in the room.
And this is the same for other meetings that happen within the city as well, all going back to normal settings?
Yeah, I think the Planning Commission has one more hybrid or remote meeting, and then they're going to be transitioning back to that in-person meeting and format later, probably in July. And then I think Park Board is transitioning back for their meeting here in June as well.
To the consent agenda, a couple items pulled from consent. The first item had to deal with what you talked about in the work session.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that item related to the Tree Preservation Overlay District.
Yeah, so the other piece that we've been working on with the Arbor Committee was this zoning text amendment for the Tree Preservation Overlay District. And so we had work sessions on this issue, like I think back in March. And so we've been working to bring this forward since then. And there was one piece in this ordinance that would have worked with conservation easements on some of the privately held land, like in a residential development, if they were doing tree preservation replacement, that those would be covered in a conservation easement. Council wanted to take one more look at that, so we're going to take one more look at that with the Arbor Committee and bring that back. And then we also had the high school, at the high school, Maple Grove Senior High, at the football stadium, or at the stadium, I should say. The football boosters are looking to do a video scoreboard, and they need a variance on a couple issues there for that. And so we did have a bit of an error in terms of how the notice was provided. We used the address of the high school versus the address of the stadium, so that changed a little bit of the radius of that notice. And so that notice is being redone, and that item will come back to the council on June 21st. For consideration. And then also acknowledging the contribution of the family of Bob Burlingame. As you know, Bob, long-serving, started with the city as a police officer, long-serving police chief, and then mayor. Bob recently passed away, and his family contributed $2,000 to the police department towards their programs and initiatives. So very nice memorial for Bob.
Now moving ahead to special business, and there was some swearing in and oath of office to do. First, let's go with the fire department and some swearing in of some firefighters. Yeah,
so we had 4 new firefighters that have completed their probation, so coming in to be sworn in. We had Eric Berry, Sam Eininger, Gary Hendrickson, and Randy Sartor. So great to have them with us and acknowledge their service and the commitment of their family.
And next to the police department, oath of office, and again, something that we've been talking about that has kind of been holding for a while, but you've got 4 officers in different positions as well. Yeah,
so some of these officers have been, or leadership positions, they've been doing these new jobs for quite some time, but we waited till we could have them in with their family. This is an important event for them and in their career, and so we want to really make sure we provide the opportunity to acknowledge that. So now that we're kind of back in person, we're working through all of these swearing-ins that have been delayed. So we did oath of office for Police Captain Travis Pabuda, Police Sergeant Brad Brad Holzerland, Police Sergeant Aaron Schoening, and Police Sergeant Grant Smith. So we really congratulate all of them on their promotions. These are all folks that have been with our department for many years, and these were promotional opportunities, and they're just a great part of our leadership team in the police department.
Congratulations to all. Chief Bush then from the fire department comes back up to the podium
Yep.
for what we think may be his last COVID update. So
Yeah.
give us an idea of why this is the last and a little bit of what he had to say in the update.
Yeah, so we've been doing these monthly COVID-19 response updates for the council and certainly for the public as well as part of the council meetings. And it's an opportunity to share information. Of course, Chief Bush, as our emergency management director, sits in on all the Department of Public Safety, Department of Health briefings, Hennepin County Emergency Management, and so it's an opportunity for him to share that information out with the council and with the public. We're really getting to the point where we're continuing to monitor things, but we're kind of moving back to business as normal here. So we're watching those case rates drop. I think today they talked about the positivity rate falling below that 5% number, and the case numbers really going down as the vaccine numbers continue to climb. And so we'll continue to monitor and come back as needed, but for now we're going to consider this our last COVID-19 update unless warranted.
Hats off to the chief for all of the work that it took to put those together. 2 public hearings on the 7th. The first was related to Cub Foods, a new building coming up in the parking lot. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Cub Foods has been in discussions with the city about building a standalone liquor store out at the kind of the northwest corner of their parking lot up against Grove Drive there. So they wanted to come forward and have some discussion about their liquor license and make sure that the city was comfortable with issuing another off-sale license. We don't have any limitations in the city. Some cities do have number limitations on those. Today we don't have that. So there was a path for them to make application for that new off-sale liquor license. So they will be in front of the council they're going to have to go through a PUD plan amendment to get approval to add that building to the parking lot. And at that time, we'll work through, look at the building architecture, the layout, circulation on the site, traffic, parking, all those things. So this was kind of their first step to make sure that the liquor license was going to go okay. And then they'll be in front of the council probably in August with that new liquor store building.
We will keep you up to date. The other public hearing related to Boston Scientific, a lot going on that property. Tell us about this work that had to be done.
Yeah, so this was a vacation of some public utility easements out there as they work towards that building of that, or the construction of that 4th building. So needing to vacate some of those and dedicate new ones to allow for those utilities to be placed.
Let's now move to community development, a few projects that we've been talking about. They move through the process here. The first is the Crew Car Wash.
Yeah.
Where is it and what is going on with this particular project?
Yeah, so this is at the corner of Elm Creek Boulevard and Weaver Lake Road, so the former Highland Bank building that has been vacated there. Highland Bank, of course, built the new kind of multi-tenant building further to the east there along Weaver Lake Road. So that building was up for sale, and so Crew Car Wash had made application there to build a new building. So the Highland Bank building would go away, and then they would build a new structure there. This one was kind of a tough site. It's kind of tucked back in there. Great visibility from Elm Creek and Weaver, but in terms of getting in there, you're kind of weaving through, and then just not a ton of parking, and a little bit of a challenge back in there in terms of a site. So I think this use will fit back in there. We did a lot of work on stacking, queuing, traffic, that kind of a thing, and it's an attractive building. A lot of brick, nice materials, brick, stone, and glass. So this one did get approval there for that corner. There is some activity going on out there right now, which really isn't related to this project. There's some sewer work that's going on. So if you'll see Vite out there, and there's, in the right of way. So you'll see that. We've had some questions about that. Is this going forward already? So they'll likely get into construction later this summer.
All right. It will be a busy corner.
Yep.
Last item was the food truck ordinance, something that's becoming very popular, and the city wanted to clean up a few things related to food trucks.
Yeah, and we've seen a real increase, of course, certainly during the pandemic, and I kind of think maybe some of it will continue, but a lot of food truck activity in town. And so the purpose of this ordinance was really to kind of document kind of how we've been operating and put it in more formally. One of the things that we want to make sure is that food trucks have been through kind of a fire inspection. We see a lot of propane, a lot of use of those types of things, sometimes some electrical, and then, it usually involves some sort of a tent or something, so can be some fire risk issues there. So we always want to make sure that they have had a fire inspection. And we do, in our ordinance, allow for kind of reciprocity. So if they've been through an inspection in Plymouth or Brooklyn Park or Minneapolis, we'll take that so they won't have to produce that again. So it just kind of formalizes how we've been dealing with food trucks in Maple Grove.
All right, keep your eye out for more coming in the city. The council then moved into an EDA meeting shortly to talk about something that then they'll cover in the council meeting again. This is the Arbor Lakes Business Park 2. What is happening here, and why did this have to go into the EDA portion? Yeah,
so if you recall, the last council meeting, the Arbor Lakes Business Park Phase 2 was in front of the council for their land use development approvals for that next phase of those buildings that'll be kind of up against the retail edge there of the fountains. So this next step was the Tif Development Agreement, so the Tax Increment Financing Development Agreement. This is part of that new soils district that we got established out there for the gravel mining area a few years ago. Same kind of deal that was provided to the first phase, and it's really focused on job creation. So they have job goals to receive this tax increment financing, and then job and wage goals that they have to meet and report on every year. So the EDA has to take action on that TIF development agreement, as well as the council. So council came back and considered the same agreement.
Very good. Well, it's happened back to back. Now to upcoming items for community and economic development. Laundry list of things coming up at the Planning Commission on the 14th. What are some of the highlights that will be coming up?
Yeah, so we have the TRICARE retail building. This one is up kind of north of Menards, up in that area. A 22,000 square foot small grocery that'll be featuring Indian foods, so that'll be popular there. We have a small office building off of 73rd Avenue, about 18,000 square foot. That's kind of down off of 73rd Hemlock area, that little run of office and flex space down there. And then we have a 52 lot subdivision up at kind of on the Dayton border. So this is one of those developments that's north of Rush Creek but connects through Dayton. So an extension of that existing neighborhood up there. So 52 lots up there. And then we have a medical office building proposed up by 610 Maple Grove Parkway, kind of north of 610 up there, kind of getting into that new area out by Austin Mutual and Bell Bank out there. So that's about a 45,000 square foot medical office.
All right, a lot of activity coming up. We'll report on that as it gets to the council portion. Let's talk about public works and engineering, and the first thing, of course, is 94-494. Where are we now? How are things going?
Well, it's getting tougher out there, I will say. I had to drive south on 494 yesterday, and it was backed up to Rockford Road to go northbound, westbound. So I think this summer is going to be tough out there on the corridor. Again, just really encourage people to slow down and take a look. You got to make kind of quick decisions. Are you taking the bypass all the way to St. Michael? Are you staying in those 2 lanes? And now it's neck down to 1 lane, kind of making that transition through the Fish Lake split. So if there's an alternative to stay off of 94 and you're just going to Plymouth or someplace else, I would encourage you to maybe think about that, because it's going to be, and that single lane restriction is for about a month. And then we're also going to be dealing with some work on the ramps to Weaver and Maple Grove Parkway, so there's going to be periods of closure for that as well. So a lot of activity out there in the corridor, but the good news is come Thanksgiving, things are going to be great.
Perfect.
So bear with us.
We'll look forward to that. And then a few other items Ken mentioned related to funding, related to transportation projects. Give us a little update there. Yeah, so we're in the final phases of preparing our application for another round of federal funding to see if we can't get a little bit more money in the bank for the 610 completion project. And this time the program has changed it used to be called the Build Grant application. Now it's the Raise Grant application. With each new administration, they kind of change up the program names, and sometimes the priorities associated with them as well. So we're going to be submitting that here in early July, and we continue to work at a federal level, on advocacy for those applications. Let's talk about the water tower for a minute. And the great plan was to do the water tower painting before it got hot. Well, it got hot all of a sudden. How does that impact the city? Yeah, so we purposefully plan to do these projects early in the summer to kind of beat the heat of the summer, because it does
we drain that down, and so we don't have that water volume there for that period of time. And now is the height of the sprinkle, usually in July is the height of the sprinkling season. Now it's getting pretty dry again. So we're doing okay. We're monitoring that. We don't have any issues yet, so we're hoping that this project will be wrapped up by the middle of July. We do have heard from a couple folks that we have to move that cellular equipment off that tower, and we move it onto a shorter tower for the interim period, and so we have heard there have been some cell reception issues. So again, we're targeting this project to be done by the middle of July. All
right, hang in there with that. You had a couple updates from the meeting on the 7th related to the Hindu Society. They have a big event coming up.
Yeah, so this weekend at the Hindu Society is their 15th anniversary of the temple and their annual inauguration, so we're really excited for them and wish them well this weekend as they have their big celebrations. And we will have City Council there, and there's some federal and state officials that'll be attending as well, both Saturday and Sunday.
Final note from the meeting was the special session. You're keeping an eye on the Capitol. What are we looking for?
Yeah, so Monday they'll be back in special session, and I don't know, hopefully there's lots happening behind closed doors down there to get a deal done here, lots at stake. But we are monitoring the tax bill, of course, with regard to our local option sales tax application or request, and so we'll continue to monitor that and see what happens on Monday, June 14th.
There's your recap from the meeting on the 7th. We'll tell you about the next meeting coming up on the 21st in just a minute, but we have other things happening in the city of Maple Grove we want to spend a few minutes on. The first is the summer newsletter. That edition is out and ready for people to read. What would we find inside? Yeah, so lots of information available in our summer newsletter about things that are going on in the community. So we really encourage people to take a read. It should be in your mailbox as of now. All right, we'll mention a couple of those things that are probably in there. The first is the photo contest. Now is the time to take some pictures outside. Yeah, so photo contest entries are accepted through noon on July 13th, and again, that's through an online portal on our website. We do that all electronically, and then we go through a judging process and provide awards, that kind of a thing, later into the summer. And then we do use all of those photos that are submitted in our communications, and of course we have a new website coming, so those will be highlighted there as well. So we really do encourage people to submit their photos in the coming month. Another outside item is mosquitoes. They're back, or they're here, and you're trying to help keep them at bay. How is that going? Yeah, so the mosquito control district is out with their helicopter and trucks to monitor and treat wetlands that breed mosquitoes. So if you see, low-flying helicopters, 9 times out of 10, it's probably the Minnesota Mosquito Control District. Got it. And so we, it's a great partnership. They come out and do that work in the city, and so you might see them around in the neighborhoods. We mentioned firefighters at the beginning, with new firefighters coming in, being sworn in, but now there's a need for even more. Tell us about the recruitment efforts. Yeah, so this is our annual recruitment process, and we do have 2 meetings coming up, 2 meetings left that talk about, provide information about becoming a firefighter, and we encourage people to bring their family as well to these informational meetings. There's one on Thursday, June 24th at 7 p.m. at Station 4, and then we've got one on Saturday, July 10th at 10 a.m. at Station 5. And just a reminder that we do provide all the training and education that you need to be a firefighter. All we're really looking for is people who are interested in serving their community. And this is just a great way to give back, and a great group of people that get together and train together and serve together. And so if you have an interest, we encourage you to visit mgfire.info. Applications are accepted through July 18th, and then encourage you to attend one of the information sessions. Fantastic. Let's talk about recreation throughout the city, some of the things you can get out and do. The first, with this heat, you might want to swim, and you have plenty of areas to swim. We do. I just was popped into the community center before I came over here, and there was streams of kids coming out in their swimsuits. So community center pools are open. Good. The Central Park splash pad, very popular this past weekend, and I'm sure this weekend it'll be packed as well. And then we have the Elm Creek Swim Pond up at the Elm Creek Park Reserve, as well as the Fish Lake Regional Park. And Weaver Lake Park is open for swimming when the lifeguards are on duty, and the hours for that are noon to 7 p.m. every day through August 15th. All right, get out and do some swimming. Registration for summer programs, also now is the time to get signed up.
Yeah, the recreation programs for the summer, kind of, I think back to a little bit normal
Yep.
type of offerings.
Good.
So lots of opportunities still out there for adults and kids to get involved.
Let's talk about some of the buildings then. What other centers are open now that people can come in and enjoy with everything opening back up?
Yeah, so we have programming back at the Senior Center and at the Teen Center at the Community Center. And I know there's been a lot of seniors, they were kind of the first group to move through the vaccination wave. So
Right.
they were kind of ready to get back to playing bridge and all those fun things.
I am sure they were. Other activities going on in the city, you're going to want to stop by Town Green. A lot happening there. What is on the schedule coming up here shortly?
Yeah, full summer programming at Town
Yeah.
Green. So children's programming starts this week at Town Green. The kid and family-friendly entertainment is offered every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. And then kind of a fun thing the next couple weekends, Cross Community Players is holding performances of Mamma Mia on June 18th to the 20th and June 24th to the 26th at the band shell. Information available on our website about the times for
That's
that.
great.
And then starting the week of June 28th, the music performances kick in on Monday and Wednesday, starting at 7 p.m. And then Friday night movies return July 16th with shows starting at dusk. So
All right,
lots of
lot to do.
activity.
Yeah, lot to do at Town Green. Farmers Market is back and going strong, and I would guess with the heat, they're enjoying that,
Yeah.
and maybe some produce coming faster than we thought.
I would think so, yeah. So we'll be back there this Thursday from 3 to 7 p.m. and all throughout the summer. We have about over 40 vendors that are participating in the farmers market this summer. And of course, the Power of Produce Club for kids is back, as well as our frequent shopper program for adults. So,
Great.
Yep.
All right, stop by the market. We mentioned Maple Grove Days earlier. Let's add on a little bit about that. What are the dates and what are some of the activities that are going on, and how can people find out?
Yeah, July 14th through the 18th are the dates for Maple Grove Days. Again, parade on that Thursday night up on 89th Avenue, so that's a go. I know they've moved the Business Expo over to Central Park. It'll be a bit more of an outdoor event, so
Right.
that'll be nice. And then, full day of festivities Saturday at the Community Center with fireworks, all those kinds of things. So maplegrovedays.org for all the schedule information.
Concert on the Lawn, something to put on your calendar for September.
Yeah.
But it's already time to start talking about groups. What is happening here lately? What
Yeah.
is coming?
Yeah, so they just announced the lineup for both nights, and this will be a two-night event this year.
Okay.
So Friday, September 17th and Saturday, September 18th, Concert on the Lawn at Central Park. The Friday night lineup has 3 country performances, including Hitchville. That's kind of a popular one. As Saturday night has a rock theme with the headliner Soul Asylum.
Very
so
nice.
early bird tickets are on sale, and I think the early bird date is through June 10th, so I think that's tomorrow. So
Okay, okay.
quick if you're watching
Yes,
this,
yes.
hop on and get those tickets. But you can buy for one night or both nights, but I think it'll be a great weekend in the park.
All right, and the line's a big part of that event as
Yes.
well. Final couple notes related to getting things cleaned up in the yard, grass cutting, a few reminders here, and also the yard waste site. What should people know if they're mowing that lawn or keeping things tidy?
Yeah, so just a reminder for residents that city code limits the height of grass to a maximum of 8 inches. And we were in the height of the growing season until this heat kicked in,
Yes.
and things are slowing down now. But we do still get a lot of complaints about grass, complaints, that kind of a thing. So we encourage people to go online and use our C-Click Fix system that gets it right to the staff that respond to those type of complaints and logs that for you. And then, of course, as you're out doing yard work, just a reminder, the yard waste site is open and available to you. We take grass clippings, leaves, and other yard waste, and that's Monday through Saturday from 8 to 7, and then again Sunday from 11 to 7, and that's located just off Maple Grove Parkway north of 610.
Yep, fantastic resource for the city. Well, Heidi, thanks again for the update, all
Thank
the
you.
information. A busy, busy meeting. The next meeting coming up is on the 21st of June, and let's leave you with that information about that meeting and also the next council date. There you see on the 21st, and the website right there in the middle of the screen. A lot of information we passed along that is on the website if you want to find out about being a firefighter, some of those activities. Also, you can find out about some of the things happening on the roadways if you want to know where to avoid. City's number at the bottom of the screen as well. That is all for the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks for joining us.